Artreach presents ENCORE at Home, Enhancing Accessible Experiences in Arts and Culture, featuring the Mütter Museum of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia.
Hello, my name is Nancy Hill. I am the manager at the Mütter Museum of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia. Thank you for joining me today for this Artreach video about Spitz-Spread's death, the 1918 influenza pandemic in Philadelphia. And so the year is 1918, and the First World War is starting to wind down. The Fourth Liberty Loan campaign in support of the war effort is still going on. The public is expected to buy war bonds as much as they can afford. And those who didn't are titled slackers and shamed for that. An example of that tense social climate can be seen in this political poster advertising the Fourth Liberty Loan, where a group of well-dressed people are seen sitting on a trolley. The second man in from the left in an olive suit has his arms crossed and he's looking quite upset. Everybody is staring at him, and they're staring at him because he doesn't have his honor badge, which was a little blue pinback button that you would get when you purchased your war bonds. And so everybody knows that he didn't buy his war bonds and is therefore a slacker. The text on the poster reads, "You'll be uncomfortable without your honor button." And at the same time as this tense social responsibility, a strain of flu, unlike any we've seen before, is starting to spread, particularly around military bases and with the movement of military personnel. And that's how it enters Philadelphia, via the Navy Yard with military personnel, though it soon starts to infect civilians. On September 28th of 1918, that Fourth Liberty Loan Drive held a parade that was advised against by city public health officials. And about 200,000 people gathered on Broad Street to watch soldiers and war industry workers march and wave flags. Pictured on the screen now is a photo of that parade. We're looking down south on Broad Street at Chestnut Street. On the right side of the screen, you can see a very large crowd of people on the sidewalk. In the center of the image, there are some sailors marching alongside a boat-shaped float. And further in the distance, there are additional floats and military folks walking. Within 72 hours of this parade, all 32 hospitals in Philadelphia at the time were full. And within about 2 weeks, people started dying in high numbers. 14,000 Philadelphians died in just 6 weeks, with 17.5 thousand Philadelphians dying in 6 months. This influenza was later identified as an H1N1 strain, and it's incredibly devastating, particularly for people ages 20 to 30, which is unusual. It's characterized by symptoms that refuse to break, things like fever, cough, congestion, exhaustion. Secondary infections are very common with this flu, such as pneumonia, bacterial infections. People sick with this flu would also start to turn blue or cyanotic from the lack of oxygen being delivered to their bloodstream by their lungs as the tissue started to deteriorate. On the screen right now is an illustration of a man. He's got his head on a pillow. He's looking very tired, very pale, and he has the characteristic blue lips of cyanosis. Flu patients would also audibly crackle when they moved as their lung tissue broke down, and apparently smelled distinctively like wet straw. The kicker here is that many doctors and nurses were away with the military in Europe, and so there wasn't enough medical personnel at home to address the pandemic as it was unfolding. In Spitz-Spread's death, the 1918 through 1919 influenza pandemic in Philadelphia, we hope to show not just the broad historical medical implications of this pandemic, but the human and social cost it had on families as well. One family affected by the pandemic was the Whitehead Ellis Ford family, the women of which are pictured here in an undated black and white photograph. The family sadly lost Naomi, who was 30 years old and pregnant at the time. Pregnant women were particularly vulnerable to the flu. But Naomi, before her death, did some early Christmas shopping at Strawbridge's, which was a department store in the city at the time. She purchased a number of high fashion items for her female friends and relatives. She also purchased festive boxes and tags, and packaged and labeled each item. However, she died before she could give these Christmas gifts, and her family, in their grief, put them away, bags, boxes, and all, up in the attic where they were forgotten about for several decades. When they were rediscovered, they were donated to the Drexel Costume Collection, again with the bags and tags and boxes, and Drexel was kind enough to lend them to us for this exhibit. Currently on display is a box, or a purse with its box and tag rather, that was addressed to a cousin Helen by Naomi. Naomi wrote on the back of the tag to Helen a little poem that reads, "When my lady goes a-shopping, at Hotel Dream a-stopping, this useful bag may come and play, for you can use it any kind of day." The front of the tag bears a small St. Nicholas. He's got a box tucked under his right arm, and he's pointing at a sign with his left hand that reads, "A Merry Christmas." Behind him are branches of holly, and they extend out throughout the card. The purse itself is an aged white canvas fabric, and it's embroidered with a simple blue and white floral pattern. It's got a brass and metal clasp at the top of the bag and a knotted white cord strap. Additionally, the box from Strawbridge's is on display, and it shows a high fashion lady of the time. She's brunette, her hair is up piled atop her head. She's wearing a light blue dress and holding a lace parasol. She's standing in front of the trunk of a tree that has some pink flowers and green foliage around it and behind it as well. We hope you'll think of Naomi and her cousin Helen and do your best to stay safe and healthy. We're hoping to welcome you back to the Mütter Museum soon whenever everything reopens, and we look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Support by Independence Public Media Foundation. ASL Interpretation by Hands Up Productions. Special thanks to Nancy Hill from the Mütter Museum, our deaf talent Beth Applebaum, and the Virginia and Harvey Kimmel Family Education Fund. Learn more at www.art-reach.org.